Hello everyone, welcome back. You're watching Empyrion Galactic Survival episode 98. I'm Enigmius and today, doing something a little bit unexpected. I hadn't planned on doing this, but I got an idea for something that I wanted to try and I was so enthusiastic about it that I had to try it right away. So that's why we're going a little bit off plan here in terms of what I expected to be doing this episode. The thumbnail may have given it away. But what I came up with was this idea to have a strip on the back of the ship just above the thrusters that looks like it's glowing in a way that gives you this impression that there's something more going on behind the scenes related to the propulsion of this ship than just simply the four thrusters on the back end. So in order to do that, one of the things we had to do is get rid of the hull that we placed in the last episode. Now, I really liked the detailing that we were placing in terms of the structure and the hull design on top of the thrusters in the last episode, so we're not scrapping them entirely. We just need to move them out of the way while we put in this feature, and then we're going to put them back and basically have everything the way that it was before we started remodeling in order to accommodate this. The other thing that we need to do is, because we're basically creating an illusion, there's nothing in the game that allows us to create blocks that have this sort of uniform, diffused, glowing sort of thing going on. So we have to come up with something that makes it look like that's what's happening, even though the mechanics of the game are actually doing something different. In order to support that, we've got these walls going in place, and it's a good thing I've got lots of practice making vents like this in various different places on a ship. But this is actually not just cosmetic. The purpose of these walls that we're putting into place is to break up your field of view so that if you're looking from the back of the ship in towards this area where it's glowing, the walls are going to make it harder to pick out little imperfections in the structure that would make it obvious that it wasn't a glowing strip, that it was something else. So these actually help us in that regard to kind of break that up and preserve the illusion, so to speak. The glowing section itself is going to be the result of a bunch of lights in the back and behind these walls in a way that you cannot see the lights from the outside of the ship. And then the area where the lights will be reflecting to, or the areas closest to the lights, will be textured with a shiny, smooth texture and painted the color of the glow that we want. So basically what we end up with is this wall that's painted blue with a shiny texture, because the blue will match the plume of the thrusters, or roughly match it anyways. And if we do the lighting properly, if we do the paint and the texturing properly, it's just going to look like this one solid strip of blue. And then the last thing that we have to do is paint everything else flat black. So again, we're using that illusion of the flat black, making it look like things are dark and shadowy in behind a certain area, even though it's just an absence of light and the color and the texture that makes it look that way. So you can see here we're basically duplicating most of the design that we had previously. Above the thrusters is just a 22.5 degree beveled edge and 22.5 degree slopes working towards the back, and then it flattens off for about 3 blocks. Because it sticks out a little bit farther, we're just redoing this little detail here on the back. I actually quite like the way that turned out. It was one of those little things, very, very simple, but it's got a nice flow to it, I find. And then we start working from the back, and this strip of blocks that we're placing now is going to be directly underneath where the lights are shining. And I realized after the fact, after I'd finished recording this, that it actually worked out better if all of the blocks on the floor are painted the flat black. What you'll see in this video is that I paint them the shiny blue, but the ones on the floor do better with the flat black. It's just something to keep in mind, and there are going to be some differences and refinements in the design for this little cosmetic glowing section that you won't see in the video, but they'll be available for you to take a look at in the blueprint for the ship when that's ready. So don't feel bad if you're seeing things in future videos and kind of catching a glimpse of something that's maybe a little bit different and wondering why. It's just because this was a very iterative sort of thing, and after I finished recording there were a few more little details that I wanted to kind of sort out. And you can see now we just placed the lights, and the lights that I'm using are part of the set of lights that we were given the just basic white lights, but the model themselves are identical to the growing lights that we've been using in all of our farms since the very beginning. So if you're wondering why is the dude using growing lights, they're not. They're just the regular white lights that are using that model as one of the options that we were given to us for the cosmetic parts. And you see the texture now that we're placing, it does a really good job of making things look solid. Like we can place this texture on a number of different blocks side by side, and all of a sudden it doesn't look like it's 3 blocks anymore. It's a solid cluster of something. It's just like a solid sheet of material. And that's really, really important to this whole illusion that we're trying to create, that we not have any kind of seams on the texture that could break up that illusion of just a solid block of light. So that was one of the things that was really important, not just for the sake of making things look like they're glowing, like the reflecting texture can quite easily do, but not having any kind of seams is very, very important to make this whole thing work. So we've got the lights in place. We've got this shiny texture. We just have to finish off. There was a couple of lights that I didn't place because I didn't think we had to go up this wide, but you can see now we are going out that wide, so we have to figure out a spot to stick a couple of extra lights. Once that's done, once we get the texture in that area taken care of, all we have left to do to get the beginnings of this illusion starting to take shape is to start painting these shiny sections of the area in behind here with the blue color. And I decided to go with the sky blue, the lightest kind of blue color that's available to us, because it was the closest to what we would see from the thrusters, roughly speaking, when everything is all fired up and running. And there's the extra 2 lights. We've got all the width that we need now, so we start applying the color. And again, with the exception of where the blocks sort of meet another block that's perpendicular, you end up with a solid kind of color. We get the spots from the lights themselves, which aren't as noticeable when you're farther away. While we're inside here, basically right in the middle of everything, they're pretty obvious, those white spots on the walls that are the reflection from the lights. But by the time we get this all done, we get everything painted, and then we go outside and take a look at it, it's a pretty decent approximation of a solid color. One of the things that you may notice that's partially obscured by the walls that we put in place for the purpose of partially obscuring that is that everywhere where we've got a 90-degree corner in the back there, because we've just got these rough angles coming around, you can see the seams because of the shadows on the corners of the blocks. What I'll end up doing before this is all said and done is replacing those with 22.5-degree slopes, so that it's a much softer transition around corners and you don't get an opportunity to see those really sort of contrasting shadows on the corners. And with that all done, it's basically Bob's your uncle. So like I say, there's going to be some revisions from what you see in this video to the finished product that'll be available to see in the blueprint. But once we get done here doing a little bit of painting, doing the black sections now, it'll be a pretty good demonstration of what I was talking about, how we went about this process, and you'll be able to see what it does for the ship as a whole once it's all done and you have a chance to look at it. So again, this was one of those things that just sort of popped into my head out of nowhere, and I decided to roll with it, and I'm pretty happy with it. So the next video, we're going to pick up where we were supposed to have picked up in this video. We're going to continue on with the structure. The ultimate goal here is we need to get the last of the thrusters in place, and we need to get the hull closed in. If we can get all of that done, I'll be pretty happy. And then if we have to go off planet to start gathering more materials to continue the build and finish everything on the interior and all that other stuff, then we can. But for now, I think we're making decent progress. I like the way things are shaping up. I like the way they're starting to look. So if you want to be notified when I add the next video, the easiest way to do that is to subscribe to my channel or follow me on social media. Links for social media are always in the information section below the video. Feel free to leave your comments and feedback. Thanks for watching, guys, and take care.